Hi there. Welcome to a very unique video. Now, of course, for those of you who are more familiar with my channel, you're probably very surprised that I'm starting off this video with not doing some sort of goofy intro where I name myself something extremely silly. But that's not what this video is. Since this seems to be the year of really silly video project ideas, I decided that what better way to round off this particular year than with an actual holiday special for once. You see, I'm not really one to do holiday specials on this channel. The closest thing is probably my end of year videos, but even then I don't really consider those to be, I guess, holiday specials, if you will. They're more just like a time capsule as to how far I've come, as well as, you know, just what kinds of insane garbage happened during that year. But with this particular video, I thought to myself, I'm gonna shake things up a little bit. I feel like doing an actual holiday special that will hopefully reel people in, and I thought what better way to do that than with a tier list of the various known holidays. But of course, I thought to myself, that's not interesting enough, okay? Of course, people wanting to hear my opinions on the stupid traditions of today are of course already funny enough, but I thought, you know, I'm a man of research. I'm a man of wanting to try and figure things out. I'm a man of trying to get to the bottom of things, if you will. And I thought to myself, why don't I decide to add on a little bit of a twist? And that twist being that I would look up the history of a lot of these holidays, see what the hell they came from, and also just kind of poke fun at the fact that we thought that we came up with it first. And funnily enough, I ended up on a bit of a rabbit hole with almost every single one of these holidays on here, in terms of just trying to figure things out where they actually came from. I have a collection of about 7 different holidays, you'll see them right here, and of course I decided to look up the history of each and every single one, and of course I'm ranking them based off of how they hold up today and just how enjoyable they are for a person like me. So of course, without any further ado, and without any further delay, welcome to the definitive history and tier list of modern holidays. So to start off this cavalcade of different holidays that we have, I thought the best way to do this video is to go in a bit of chronological order, if you will, where I start off from the beginning of the year all the way down to the end, once again, beginning of the year. And the best way to start this off is, of course, with none other than everybody's favorite rabbit celebration holiday, Easter. You know, the same exact holiday that made a whole bunch of really insane nutjobs really upset that it ended up landing coincidentally on the same exact day as another smaller national holiday called Trans Day of Visibility. What exactly did, you know, Easter come from, and why is it the way that it is right now? Well, funnily enough, the modern day, you know, telling of what Easter is all about is, of course, the celebration of mankind's savior, Jesus Huckerford Christ. And funnily enough, it mainly celebrates the day in which he decided to come back after a 3-day vacation in heaven after he got nailed by a bunch of Romans. He decided to come back after his 3-day vacation, flex off the fact that he had the nebulous core active, and then go right back up to heaven as if nothing happened. And that's basically what this entire celebration, at least nowadays, is supposed to entail, meaning that, well, for a lot of people, it just means that they're going to a sermon that's 2 hours longer than usual. But what exactly are the origins of Easter? I mean, after all, there's another big elephant in the room when it comes to Easter, and that is, of course, none other than the actual mascot for Easter, the fucking Easter Bunny. Where the hell does that come from? Well, that's of course where we get into the fact that this holiday is one of, I think, at least 2 holidays on this list that were actually originally pagan holidays that were co-opted by another religion that wanted to pretend like they came up with it first. You see, back in the ancient times, if you will, the actual origins of Easter were mainly celebrating the spring equinox, basically the transference from winter to spring, as well as that entire celestial event that actually happens in real life. And the thing is that whenever it comes to the main celebrations of this, they celebrated a particular goddess that went by the name of Estera. It's spelled like this, and I have no idea how to pronounce it properly, so we're just gonna stick with that, and that's probably how it ended up becoming Easter as we know it today. Now, of course, while a lot of the representations of this particular goddess are mainly conjecture from what I've looked up, the main, at least, decided conclusion as to what this goddess represented is, of course, the dawn, new beginnings, and fertility. You see where I'm going with this, right? Now, before I get into this next part right here, I have a question for the audience. What exactly are rabbits known for other than being absolutely drop-dead fucking adorable 99% of the time? time's up. If you guessed boinking and having more children than the average Mormon family, then you would be 110% correct. You see, the rabbit ended up becoming the symbol of this particular holiday for the pagans, in the sense that, of course, since one of the representations of this particular goddess was fertility, and since rabbits are known for popping out babies like they just hit a 777 jackpot, it's only natural that they would see the rabbit as a perfect symbol of absolute fertility. On top of that, too, they would also paint eggs as they saw eggs as the beginnings of new life, which I guess makes sense, but what makes even less sense is that they believed that certain rabbits had the ability to lay these multicolored eggs, which I don't even know how the hell they came up with, but you know what? That's their own belief system. Now, of course, this ended up morphing into what Easter is nowadays, which of course is either A, as I mentioned before, a longer sermon than usual, or B, having children scrounge around your backyard to look for plastic eggs containing enough candy to keep them up for the next week and a half. Now, of course, what does that mean for someone like me, someone who is not religious and also doesn't have children? Well, it just means that this is a supremely mid-holiday in which the only good thing is just the candy, and that's really about it. So, overall, for a first holiday in this particular tier list, it gets about like a C rank in my personal opinion. It's not good, but it's not bad enough for me to really, like, put it at like a failure tier level. It at least has some enjoyable aspects, and I guess the jokes about the Easter Bunny being Jesus' persona are hilarious enough for me to bump it up to C tier, so there you go. Next up, we move into another interesting holiday, which is, of course, one that doesn't just last for 1 or 2 days, but lasts for an entire month. And that is, of course, none other than Pride Month. Now, of course, the main reason why I'm including this is actually for a couple of reasons. Reason number one is because, well, if you don't know anything about me, well, I'm fruitier than the produce section. I mean, just take a look at this. I have like 2 different flags. One represents that I don't fucking care as long as I like you, and the other one represents that I'm a guy, but I'm not sure about it. But of course, the other reason why I'm including it is because I know that there's some idiots that like to stalk my channel, and I know it's going to really piss them off if I decide to include this particular holiday among the list of other bigger holidays, if you will. So, I see you, and I know you're mad. And of course, the third and probably more important thing is because, well, I wanted to have 7 holidays because 7 is my boyfriend's favorite number, if I remember correctly, so... But anyways, what exactly is Pride Month, and how did it exactly begin? Well, funnily enough, it all goes back to the AIDS crisis back in the day, in which America thought that it was a brilliant idea that treating gay people as less than human was a very fun and awesome idea. Spoiler alert, it wasn't, and it basically caused a massive fucking movement called the Gay Liberation Movement, and it ended up resulting in one of the most infamous riots of all time, the Stonewall riots. Now, of course, because of these particular riots, and because of just how many people ended up losing their lives in there, it ended up being commemorated as one particular day towards the tail end of June called, well, National Pride Day. And then eventually the president decided, nah, fuck that, it's not just gonna be one day, we're gonna celebrate it month long. And then that ended up becoming National Gay and Lesbian Pride Month. And then later on, everybody's favorite president, Barack Obama, came along and said, why just gay and lesbian? Let's just have it encompass the entire known and accepted LGBT community and have it be celebrated for everybody. And there you go, that's how we get the modern day Pride Month. Now, of course, Pride Month in and of itself is a day of lots of colors, numerous parades, probably convention centers filled with so many queer people that it should just be called fruit bowls during that particular month, and a lot more that I probably don't really feel like getting into at the moment. But of course, there's one particular thing that I'm failing to actually bring up here, and it's probably one of the biggest critiques of Pride Month that I can agree with, and that is, of course, rampant corporatism. You see, during Pride Month, it is one of those particular months in which companies actually like to try and pretend like they give a shit about people like us, by painting their logos in bright rainbow colors, at least in the countries in which it isn't punished with literal death to actually wear those said colors, and, they go out of their way and make everything all bright and rainbowy colored and have that be sold on store shelves and in video games. Now, of course, well, normally I wouldn't exactly be a fan of this because, well, it's rampant corporatism and it's fucking stupid. At the exact same time, I have to point out the fact that it has the tendency to make stupid people really fucking mad that companies want to try and make money in which it is profitable to paint things with rainbow colors. Let's be honest here, okay? If it weren't for stupid people, I would not have the hobby that I currently have right now. In fact, I probably made a good pretty penny off of some people that like to complain about the existence of gay, lesbian, trans, bi, whatever the fuck else exists, kinds of people that are different than them. And of course, the fact that this month exists means that I can make that sweet extra ad revenue off of making fun of the dumbest people alive. So of course, because of that, I almost feel obligated to give this entire month an A tier. Both because, well, it's funny. Reason number 2 is because I'm gay, and reason number 3 is because, again, it's bound to piss off some of the stalkers of my channel. So there you go. But anyways, moving on. Now we move on into July with another interesting holiday known as the 4th of July. Now, of course, this one I'm pretty sure is an American exclusive, let's be honest, where it's a celebration of America's independence from Great Britain. And that's really the entire history of the holiday. It's just the day that the Declaration of Independence was signed and we broke away from Great Britain, which I believe in hindsight was probably a very terrible idea given how much of a petri dish of stupidity this country has become nowadays. However, I feel like I should just mention that that has nothing to do with how it's celebrated nowadays. The way that 4th of July is celebrated nowadays is, well, I'll just let you know, it's one of the 2 days, it's like one of the 2 holidays in the United States that I'm aware of, where people are allowed to purchase high-grade explosives and fire them into the fucking sky. And some of the more daring among us, or dare I say, some of the more stupid among us, like to fire literal guns into the air, forgetting that hot lead is also subject to gravity. What exactly does that mean for someone like me that doesn't enjoy doing either one of those things? Well, it just means that my sleep schedule is completely fucked for the week before and the week after that entire holiday happens. I just fucking hit my nose. Are you kidding? So, of course, considering the fact that this is literally just a holiday of fuck your sleep schedule in particular, this, of course, just has to go into the F tier, okay? Listen, my main problem with it is that people like to set off fireworks way too fucking early. A week before. You do not need to fucking do that. Other people need sleep and they have jobs. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have the sleep schedule of a saint and you're able to sleep through the sounds of 7-2 happening outside your fucking window. But like, for people like myself, shut the fuck up. Stop firing fireworks off a week before the 4th of July. It's annoying. Now on to the next holiday. Now unfortunately, since literally nothing happens during August and September, we of course have to move all the way over to October for anything remotely interesting to really happen. And funnily enough, something interesting does in fact happen. And that is of course none other than Halloween. The origins of Halloween are very interesting. It's one of the few holidays with actually pagan roots that for some reason the religious among us like to stay the fuck away from because they're afraid of Master Chief. Now, funnily enough, the actual original holiday itself was a Celtic holiday that went by the name of Samhain. I'm not entirely sure if I'm even pronouncing that correctly. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but that's what we're going to be sticking with. And it marked the midpoint between the fall equinox and the winter solstice. It was also believed on this particular day that the barrier between the real world and the spirit world was weak enough to allow the spirits of the damned to roam the earth for an entire day. So what the Celts would do was that they would basically either A, leave offerings out on their front door for, the spirits to partake in, so that way they wouldn't be cursed. Option number 2, put out carved squash outside to scare away the spirits. Or C, dress up in various attire, either resembling animals or various spirits and whatnot, in order to either confuse or scare away the spirits, so that way their souls wouldn't get dragged to hell. And that's basically where every part of, like, the modern-day Halloween kind of comes from. The costume and dressing up and whatnot comes from this particular holiday. The squash carving, which is, of course, now just pumpkin carving, comes from this. And leaving out offerings probably ended up becoming what is now known as modern-day trick-or-treating, because let's be honest here, the only thing more terrifying than a Dullahan is quite possibly an angry 4 to 12-year-old that didn't get their favorite Milky Way bar. So I think it's probably best that it ended up evolving into where it is now. So of course the overall modern day traditions of Halloween are of course very vastly different to what they used to be. Well, at least in certain ways. Sure, the belief system has definitely changed, and the overall reasonings for why I even do it have probably all been but forgotten, but I think the idea that it all started because people didn't want evil spirits to be fucking with them is probably the most hilarious twist of irony for, like, the crazy, like, fundamentalists who want to stay away from this religion. Literally, this holiday is meant to scare away the devil. Like, that is what this holiday is, and I think that that is the funniest thing thing ever. So, of course, what exactly does that mean nowadays? Well, we have trick-or-treating, we have dressing up in costumes, which is also fucking awesome. I mean, after all, my entire persona is based off of one of the most terrifying concepts ever thought of during medieval, like, Europe, and that is the Plague Doctor. Like, if I could dress up as a Plague Doctor and walk around outside day in and day out, that would be the best fucking thing ever. But unfortunately, the only time in which I can actually wear this without being looked at like I'm an escaped convict of Arkham Asylum is, of course, during Halloween. So, overall, I have to give Halloween probably the first and only S tier on this entire list of holidays. Just purely because, well, I just love it. It's a great fucking holiday. Even though I can't partake in a lot of the different things, I can still enjoy the aesthetics, I can still enjoy the fact that I can, well, dress up in a costume, and of course, on top of that too, who doesn't love a good scary movie every once in a while? I mean, come on, who doesn't enjoy some of that shit, alright? So, obviously, I feel comfortable in putting Halloween in S tier. And now moving on from Halloween, we now go into November, which is of course where Thanksgiving happens. Now from the research that I've done, Thanksgiving is yet another one of those holidays that's exclusive to around here in, North America at the very least. Notice how I didn't say specifically the United States, because at least in some of the research that I've done, supposedly Canada also celebrates this. Any Canadians in my audience will have to try and confirm that for me, because I'm not even entirely sure about that one, but at least from what I know about the American version of this holiday, it is of course mainly to celebrate the time in which the Pilgrims of Plymouth Rock decided to come together with the Wampanoag people in order to seal a peace treaty with a massive feast. Now of course, everyone knows that this particular peace treaty ended up lasting for all of eternity, and thankfully no other settlers of the United States would go out of their way to murder nearly the entire native population and chase them off of their land. Yeah, so anyways, this particular holiday is just a very weird one in my personal opinion because there's really not much going for it. Really, the overall traditions haven't really changed from the original because it's literally just a massive feast and that's all that Thanksgiving has. There's really no decorations involved, there's no costuming, there's really nothing much that happens whenever it comes to Thanksgiving. There's just the feast and that's really about it. But let's put it this way, who the fuck cares about the turkey? Who cares about the stuffing? Who cares about the mashed potatoes? Listen, I'm only there for the Thanksgiving feast for that cranberry sauce, okay? That shit slaps hard, okay? I don't care if it's like homemade or literally shit from Walmart in a can. That shit will always be good because it's like the easiest fucking thing to make in my personal opinion. Like, you could probably make a good cranberry sauce right now, okay? It's fucking easy to do. It's awesome. I fucking love it. And you'd be insane to disagree with me. But overall, since there's not really much going whenever it actually comes to this particular holiday, I have to give this about like a C tier. It's an okay holiday. It's not good, but it's not great, okay? It's just a very mid holiday for really just anyone involved. Like, it's not even like it's a specifically me thing. There's just not much going for this holiday, so C tier. There you go. Anyways, now with all of the other ones out of the way, we now move on into December, in which we have none other than Christmas. Now, of course, I've already made an entire video as to how Christmas has just been so over-corporatized that it's lost its identity, but what exactly are the origins of Christmas, you're probably wondering. Well, funnily enough, this is like one of the only holidays that I ended up going down a bit of a rabbit hole in terms of trying to figure out where a lot of the rituals and whatnot that we do on Christmas actually came from, and they just seem to come from a lot of different areas. But of course, let's first start off with the fact of how it is usually told nowadays, which is of course that, well, it's used to commemorate the birth of Jesus Christ, and that's basically it. That's kind of, at least, the current American/Christian retelling of why we celebrate Christmas. However, funnily enough, a lot of the rituals, a lot of the things that we at least associate with Christmas and whatnot, aside from rampant corporatism, all actually come from, wouldn't you fucking guess it, pagan roots again. I know, it's shocking that the pagans are back at it again, literally creating the foundations of a lot of our known holidays. The thing is that a lot of the things that we do with Christmas nowadays come from, like, a lot of different parts of the ancient world, if you will, and I'm gonna try my best to go into as many of them as possible, okay? Let's first start off with the original name for at least Christmas, as well as just like a lot of these different celebrations that were celebrated around this particular time of year, and why they were even celebrated in the first place. One of the first known at least like celebrations of a, type during this particular part of the year is, of course, the Norse celebration of Yule. You know, the whole entire thing of like the Yule log that they talk about in like certain Christmas carols and whatnot? Yeah, that's where that comes from. And it was a literal log that they would light on fire, and they would basically feast around it until the log burned out. And that was kind of the celebration. And, well, what was it celebrating? Well, it was celebrating the winter solstice. The same with basically every other holiday up on this, particular cavalcade of various things that have amalgamated together into modern-day Christmas. On to the next thing, which is, of course, the ritual of gift-giving, in which, well, that actually comes from the Romans. You see, they celebrated a thing called Saturnalia, or Saturnalia. I don't know how it's pronounced. I'm gonna call it Saturnalia because it just sounds less weird. But they celebrated, they had a celebration called Saturnalia, in which they would, well, as you would expect, in ancient celebrations, they would drink copious amounts of alcohol, eat tons of food, but of course with a bit of a twist, where they would give each other gifts in order to commemorate the winter solstice, as well as celebrate the chief of the gods, Saturn, or at least their own chief of the gods, I should probably say. So, hence the name of the celebration being Saturnalia. I know, it's shocking that the holiday that has Saturn in the name would be celebrating Saturn. It's wild, isn't it? But then we get on to a couple of things. The tree decorating, as well as possibly one of the origins for the appearance of Santa Claus. That is, of course, the ancient Germanic tribes, and their belief that during this particular time of year, the ancient king of the gods, for fuck's sake, the ancient king of the gods, Odin, would basically go across the entire world in order to observe the populace and see who was worth living and dying. And of course, because of that terrifying revelation, most of those tribes just opted to stay the fuck indoors because, well, let's be honest here, you don't want to get smitten down by a literal god, as that would probably be one of the worst things that could possibly happen during this festive time of year. But another thing that they would do is that they would decorate massive trees with berries, candles, and whatever the fuck else that they could find in order to commemorate said god that would decide whether or not they were fit to live. It's kind of weird when you really think about it that way, but you know what? I'm not one to judge the traditions of ancient people because I'm not one of them, and personally, they could do whatever the hell they want. It was their own thing, and in all honesty, they weren't going around and doing gladiatorial combat with one another in order to celebrate the festive time of year. So you know what? I can give them a pass on that one. They weren't fucking killing each other. They were at least, celebrating and being merry. But of course, the common depictions of Odin were, of course, that of a big bearded guy. Hence, of course, where the appearance of Santa Claus may have come from. Now we get on to St. Nicholas, which is, of course, commonly conflated with Santa Claus in certain Christmas carols and whatnot. Funnily enough, I believe that he was an actual bishop that existed, at least from the research that I did, and he was the patron saint of giving gifts. And of course, because of that, that ended up melding together with the appearance of Odin into what we now consider to be Santa Claus. Now, of course, the popularized image of Santa Claus ended up coming about due to the Coca-Cola Company, who, as you may already know nowadays, is now the patron saint of AI-generated slop. Okay, brief fucking tangent, okay? Coke, what the fuck are you doing? Like, I'm sorry, but like this is somewhat related and somewhat unrelated, but like Coca-Cola, what the hell are you doing by making not just one, but apparently 2 AI-generated Coca-Cola ads within the span of 2 weeks? Were you just trying to hand Pepsi the easiest fucking W? Like, hang on, I gotta bring the microphone closer here for this, alright? Coke, were you actually just trying to give Pepsi an easy W? Like, Pepsi has the opportunity to do the funniest fucking thing ever because of this. Like, they have the opportunity to literally take the fattest shit all over Coca-Cola right now because Coca-Cola, with their billions of dollars in marketing, the fact that they have, like, I shit you not, they have their drinks in restaurants, retail stores, and gas stations across the fucking globe, and they're multiple billions of dollars. They can't spare like a few $100,000 on just like some animators or actors in order to make their fucking ad for them. No, instead they turn to an AI image generation program to create their shitty ad for them, and the only original thing is probably slapping the Coca-Cola ad on those shittily made trucks that have little to no consistency. What the actual fuck? This is why we just, like, should just give up on a lot of these companies, okay? Especially on Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola's mid as fuck, okay? Join the Pepsi crowd, if you will. Anyways, tangent over, but that's basically where a lot of the modern day traditions of Christmas comes from. Tree decorating comes from the Norse and the German tribes. The original name actually came from the Norse, of the Yule tradition, and then of course we have the patron saint of gift giving, Santa Claus, being originally named Saint Nicholas for a bishop that probably existed, and of course the imagery of the Norse god fucking Odin being combined together into a now marketable character for the Coca-Cola company to pretend like they came up with. Now, what exactly does that mean for modern day Christmas? Well, modern day Christmas is just kind of mid as hell. Listen, alright, the only things that are keeping it from being so bad that it would end up in the mid tier is probably because, one, it at least happens during the time in which the colder months are happening, and that alone is good enough for me to bring it up at least a good 10%, if you will. Another thing is peppermint hot chocolate that for some reason is only sold during this particular month because, heaven forbid, people want to have anything enjoyable in life. And then, of course, finally, I guess the presents are nice too, even though I'm getting up in the age in which getting presents for me is going to be significantly more difficult in order to surprise me with, and eventually you're probably just gonna have to, like, gift me socks or something like that because those things spontaneously create holes due to just how often I'm walking nowadays. But anyways, in terms of the celebration nowadays, despite the fact that it's so over-corporatized that it's being sold, like, as early as apparently even in mid-September, according to some people in, like, other parts of the world in my audience, I'm gonna give this, holiday at least, like, a B tier. It at least has a few things going for it outside of just, like, food and whatnot, and it's an overall okay holiday. It's not bad, it's not good, but it's not bad enough for me to want to put it into the mid-tier, if you will. Anyways, moving on to the next one. And now finally we move on towards the end of the year, and technically back to the beginning, which is of course none other than New Year's. New Year's is a very interesting holiday. Of all the research that I've at least done in trying to look up the origins of New Year's or any kinds of potential reasonings for why the New Year's celebration is the way that it is, I legitimately could not fucking find anything, okay? The closest thing that I could find to any kind of, quote, early New Year's celebration or anything in regards to its history that wasn't just people in antiquity bitching about how long a year was literally just apparently a celebration in ancient Mesopotamia back in 2000 BCE, where apparently the ancient Mesopotamians celebrated the time in which one of their gods that went by the name of Marduk defeated an evil sea goddess by the name of Tiamat. And that is all I could fucking find, and as badass as that sounds, that is literally the closest thing to any kind of New Year's celebration that I could possibly find. There weren't even any details as to what the celebration was, but considering that a lot of these ancient celebrations usually involved a lot of drinking and food, I could probably take a wild guess that that's probably exactly what this celebration was as well. But in terms of what it is nowadays, well, remember how I said on 4th of July it was one of those kinds of holidays where, at least in the United States, as far as I'm aware of, people were allowed to purchase high-grade explosives and fire those into the sky to annoy their neighbors with for 2 weeks? Yeah, that's basically what this holiday is too, okay? People just purchase fucking fireworks, fire them off for a week before and a week after New Year's in order to basically fuck up everybody's sleep schedule within that neighborhood. And that is basically about it. That is basically the entire fucking holiday, and there's really not much else that I can really say about the holiday in and of itself. And because of that, it just gets another fucking F tier, okay? It's just another one that's within the F tier, and it's just not worth even mentioning, okay? This holiday could possibly disappear tomorrow, and I wouldn't lose sleep over it. In fact, I'll probably gain sleep over it because people would not be firing goddamn explosives into the sky, and it wouldn't sound like 7-2 is going on outside my goddamn window. So, there you go. Anyways, because my dumbass forgot to record a proper outro, we're gonna do it this way. So anyways, here's the completed tier list with all the, major holidays put into the respective tiers, and of course you've just watched the video in which I kind of go over why they ended up getting the tiers that they got. Overall, some of them are pretty good, some of them are much better than the rest of them, and then some of them could literally vanish off the face of the earth tomorrow, and I honestly wouldn't give a shit. Obviously, most of them, except for, well, the obvious two, are at least winners in their own ways. They at least have something enough going for them that, honestly, they're at least passable. They can at least keep going for maybe another few years or so, I don't know. But yeah, I think overall that just kind of does it. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, please consider leaving a like, that's very well appreciated. Leave a comment down below what you thought about the video, what you want me to talk about next, and also subscribe to the channel if you're new and you want to see more content such as this. Follow me on Blue Sky, join the Discord server, and of course special thanks to the channel members. And of course if you made it to this point in the video, I don't know, I guess comment fireworks or something, that makes sense. But yeah, anyways guys, this has been Sanity, and have yourselves a nice day.